We call this going into the future together because we will be learning along with you about blockchain and digital currencies tonight. We brought our experts in to help us facilitate that dialogue, but we will be learning along with you. And we invited other Black women-led organizations to help us put this event on. So Carlene just mentioned our strategic partner, the California Black Women's Health Project. We also have with us the Black Female Project, and the Black Female Project helps us to integrate an intergenerational part of this conversation, because their aim is to help young women and girls learn about the realities of the work life. So they do mentoring and they do share stories of preservation. The bottom line is we don't do it by ourselves. We have Black women to support us on our journey for aging and in the creation of this event. So we say, as Sisters Aging with Grace and Elegance, you can be fabulous at 40, phenomenal at 50, sensual at 60, sensational at 70, and elegant at 80 and beyond. Wow. So life is just going to always be good for Black women. And so I'm going to share. Carlene, do you want to do some housekeeping activity?
So, yeah, I'm doing a little bit of housekeeping, and I'm going to give some kudos to my partner, Kiara, because Kiara is definitely the most entrepreneurial of the two of us. And so when she was talking about, I want to do blockchain. I'm like, okay, girl, you're going to do blockchain. Okay. And she ran with it. And I'm so glad that she did. This is more of I wouldn't say it's a departure, because we do focus on financial wellness as Sisters Aging with Grace and Elegance. And this is just another opportunity. I would just say it's a little of our more avant-garde approach to talking about these financial issues. So thank you. To our partners, I'm going to have Olenka go ahead and put our slide back up, and we're going to launch our first poll to get started.
And Carlene, I want to let everyone know that Olenka is representing the Black Women's Blockchain Council. They are the presenters for our evening tonight, and they are the experts who are showing us all the way. And it's been a wonderful partnership. We couldn't have done it without them in any way. Okay, so just wanted to introduce them as well.
Yes, and they're going to tell you more about their organization. So yeah, so we want to have everyone respond to this question. What percentage of banks are experimenting with blockchain technology? All right. What do you think? Right. Okay, folks are weighing in. Oh, folks are weighing in. Okay. Wow, we're getting an excellent response rate. Yes, you are a male and you are welcome and you do not need to leave. Thank you, welcome. All right, we not 89, 90. You have anyone else who's wanting to weigh in? We'll give it about 5 slow seconds more, but we've got 90 folks weighing in. 5, 4, 3. Okay, some more folks, okay. You like, my voice will be heard one way or another tonight. Okay.
Everyone, thank you so very much for joining us. We are Black Women Blockchain Council, and it is our extreme pleasure to serve you tonight. Our goal is to inform you on the generalities of blockchain and cryptocurrencies. What is it in the first place? Well, I am Sarita McDaniel. My background is international tax and compensation. And even with all of that, I am the non-technical branch of the Black Women's Blockchain Council. We have our chairwoman, Olayinka. She, along with Gloria, will do the heavy lifting tonight with the presentation. Our goal is to be clear, concise, and fun. We have a lot of information. On the East Coast, it's extremely late. In Nigeria, where we have an office, it's extremely early. So we have all of the time zones in between, and that's what makes what we do so exciting. Just a bit more about Black Women's Blockchain Council is that we have spent over uh, 2,000 hours, is actually way more than that. It's 16,000 hours collectively that the board did last year in community service, outreach, education, and partnering with organizations such as SAGE. Our not only clients and partners are mainly in Nigeria, Germany, the United States, Canada, and other countries. We do have a few in Asia, but we're doing more outreach this year to reach more in Asia. We are just glad that since 2018, we've been able to move the ball forward when it comes to Black women from whichever country involved in cryptocurrency. We will not be left behind. With that, I'm going to turn it over to our chairwoman, Olayinka. She will be concise and fair. When it gets turned over to Gloria, she has experience with working with Square, and in her own business, she has investment dollars on the table. So I can't tell you what those are, but you will meet a Black woman who has investment dollars for their cybersecurity and technology project. So thank you again. And I will be here as the voice for you guys to give a thumbs up, thumbs down, kudos, and more clarification. Chairwoman, take it away.
Thank you, Sarita. Hi, everyone. Good evening, good morning. It's great to be able to present to all of you today. I want to thank SAGE and their wonderful effort into putting this together and actually contacting us to help them set the tone and the agenda for this event. So our agenda is, if first we're going to give you an overview of what BWBC, Black Women Blockchain Council is, as well as we're going to go into the basics of blockchain and Bitcoin. We're going to touch on the crypto wallets and exchanges, the regulations that you should know and be aware of, as well as the future of blockchain and crypto. So Sarita did go over a little bit about us as board members, but I wanted to let you know that there's just more than the three of us as board members. There's other board members, and she did mention that we do have presence in it's globally, right? We are a Global Benefit LLC, and as she mentioned, our aim is to promote and increase awareness of blockchain and cryptocurrency in our community. We feel that Black women are the foundation of the Black community. So in order to increase awareness, we need to touch Black women and inform them of what this are so that we can spread it through the community as well as increase mass adoption. So here's a little video introducing you to our board member. So our mission as BWBC is to create a safe intergenerational space that inspires, trains, and activates a talent and economic pipeline of Black women pursuing professional careers and entrepreneurship in blockchain and fintech. We do this by providing educational training to K to 12, college and universities, and of course, our Sage Sisters. So our vision is to support and provide mentorship, job opportunities, and monetary resources. Create awareness by providing resources and skills to prepare girls for careers in blockchain, fintech, and other STEM careers. And also inclusion. It's very important for us to look around and see other Black women in this space. We cannot always be the only pioneers in technology as well as blockchain and fintech. We have to be able to bring majority or all of us to the table. It's very important that we're included in what's going on in society and the future, and included in creating the future. So this next portion of the slide, I just want to emphasize that we're going to talk about blockchain and Bitcoin as well as some cryptocurrency. We are not providing investment advice. Investing in crypto is speculative and can be risky. So please, if you're going to invest in crypto, please make sure that you do your thorough review and it's something that's sound for you. So now I'm going to share the poll results with you. So the question was, what percentage of banks are experimenting with blockchain and technology? The percentage is actually 69%. So 69% of banks, financial institutions are interested in blockchain. So that just means that majority of the way that you do business with banks as well as financial institutions is going to change. A lot of the times we don't think about these technologies when we're conducting our day-to-day business, but it's important to understand what Bitcoin is, and we will talk about that in a few minutes. But I also want to pose another question to you, which is another poll question. So this poll question is to find out, when do you estimate that 20 billion in revenue is expected from the global blockchain technology market? By what year? I see a lot of people submitting their answer for 2024. I see 2035. Some people hit 2040. No answers for 2056 yet. All right, you have 4 seconds. All right. So the answer is actually 2024. So in about 3 years, 20 billion in revenue, that's B for billion, is expected from the global blockchain technology market by 2024. That's pretty soon. There's a lot to know about blockchain and why financial institutions are interested in this. And when I first started, one thing that I wanted to make sure that I understood was exactly what blockchain is. Why is it important, and why do we need to be involved? One of the things that I realized was that there are other technologies that have come up in the past that as a community we have not been involved in. And there's going to be other technologies that are coming up in the future that we also need to be involved in. But blockchain is a technology that's going to revolutionize a lot of the way we do business and interact with each other. So, quick facts. 11.7 billion is a projected worldwide spending on blockchain just for next year. That means that banks, financial institutions, retail companies will be very involved in blockchain. So it's important for you to be aware of what it is. So what is blockchain? Well, blockchain is a distributed database that exists on multiple computers at the same time. And what this database does is that it's able to store data and be able to share that data peer to peer. That means from myself to Ms. Kiara or Ms. Carlene, I can share whatever data that I wish to share with her without having the fear that it's going to be disrupted, without having the fear that a third party will come in and manipulate that data. And it's actually recorded forever. So this is a constant adding of data sets that records on a block at each contain a timestamp and a link to the previous block so that you actually form a chain. One thing that blockchain will be beneficial in is the fact that as a Black community, we tend to hold our data to ourselves. And sometimes when it comes to our history, we provide oral history. It's not written down. And because the history is not written down, it often gets lost through generation. Some information might be missing, some information might be incorrect. So what blockchain does is give us the ability to store data. Our data could be our culture, our recipes, our oral history, DNA, anything that you can consider data can be stored in what's called a node. A node is a computer that actually stores that information. So blockchain is putting data into a computer. The beauty about blockchain is that there's several computers that work in conjunction with each other in order to make sure that data is added correctly. So the first data that you put in will be checked against other data to make sure that information is correct. So there are some things that blockchain must have in order to be sufficient. Blockchain must have nodes, and nodes are the computers. So all of these right here, A, B, C, D, E, and F, represents the computers. There's data that each of these computers will store, and the lines represent the communications that these data must have. So let's say we enter in our data into A. The data that goes into A is now checked with other computers or other nodes to make sure that that data can be verified. So for instance, let's say that I entered in an oral history about my grandfather and I called him Jim. And then I want to update that history and I end up calling him Bob. That the network will check and cross-reference to make sure that that information, the new information that I'm adding, is accurate. So now I'm calling him Bob, but before I used to call him Jim. So that data will try to check to make sure it's verified. And if they cannot verify that Jim at some point was called Bob, that data will be rejected. And if it has been verified that Jim was called Bob, that data will be accepted, and all of the nodes, all of the computers will have a record of that information, so that if new information is added, that data will be verified against the new information, and it will be continuously added to the chain. So now blockchain is actually the foundation of cryptocurrency. And when people often talk about Bitcoin, they assume that Bitcoin is all the cryptocurrencies, but it's not. Blockchain is sometimes synonymous with Bitcoin, but it's the technology or the foundation that created the cryptocurrency, such as Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all the other cryptocurrencies that are out there. So when you're doing a transaction with a cryptocurrency, what happens is that that transaction is recorded by a computer and it's authenticated against what the computer, the data that's stored within the computer. A block is representing that transaction. The block is sent to every other node within that network to make sure that it's verifying the information within that block. Once the nodes have successfully verified that information, they can each receive a reward. And once the data has been successfully verified, it now is added to the chain, the blockchain. And then that now creates a new distributed network, which then ends the transaction. So that's the beauty about blockchain. It allows you to store data. It allows you to share data peer to peer with anyone, and it records the transaction from A to B. There's a lot of great use cases for blockchain. And one of the reasons why companies are looking at it is because they are able to store proprietary information or confidential information and share it with those who need to know. Another use case for blockchain, situations where the medical community need to be able to record information. So they can store that information within a blockchain and share it with whomever needs to know. And when people are trading on cryptocurrency, that transaction, you purchasing a Bitcoin, for instance, is automatically recorded. It's not recorded under your name, it's actually recorded as a series of codes because we're dealing with computers here. So it's recorded as a series of codes. And then you have a public key, which will show that a transaction came from this particular public key and it was received by another public key. In between that is what blockchain is doing, and that's what I just presented to you. So here are some key characteristics of blockchain. The reasons why blockchain is very effective is because the coding or the program behind blockchain is secure. The reason why it's secure is that the data cannot be modified, appended, or erased. The beauty about this is that we have something called cryptography. It's a programming code that allows you to create hashes. Hashes is basically taking your data, whatever it is, it could be oral history, it could be data about your culture, it could be recipes, and changing that into series of codes that cannot be manipulated. So by changing that into series of code, the computer is able to talk to each other and record the transactions and make sure that no one can come in and penetrate that data, that information, which allows the blockchain to be reliable. There's no point of failure. There are weaknesses, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, but there's no point of failure. And also consensus, because all the nodes are working together, they're verifying data, verifying information. There needs to be a consensus between all of the computers before they verify that data. And then provenance. Provenance is basically proof of work. That's when the individuals who are running those data get a certain amount of reward for the work that they've done to verify that information. So I mentioned that there are weaknesses in blockchain. The weaknesses, one of the number one main weaknesses is that in the beginning, when you're entering the data, you have to make sure that the data is correct. When you enter the data, there's no room for error, because if you mess up and if I happen to say my great grandfather's name was Jim and his name was actually George and I wanted to correct that information, I can't do that. So your point of failure or your weaknesses is actually in the beginning. When you're trying to make, you have to make sure that the data that you're entering into the blockchain is accurate. Another weakness is called a 51% attack. And with the nodes, there are human beings who are actually working with these computers that generate a lot of energy because they're constantly on, they're constantly running. And in order to be able to verify, they need to decode and code the data that have been changed into hashes. So there needs to be a significant amount of programming to be done. Oftentimes, corporations who have the resources to put into electricity will be the one who are running this data. In the network, there's trust, right? You're trusting that the next person is able to verify and is doing the correct thing to verify the data because it has to be a network of verification. In the 51% attack, there's a possibility that 51% of the computers or the nodes that are verifying information could work together to prevent information from being to prevent information from being added to the chain. They could work together to attack the information, manipulate the information, or prevent the information from being added to the chain. So that 51% attack, it's mostly relating to who's controlling those nodes that are verifying the information. Another weakness, and this is one that a lot of people tend to talk about, but it tends to be kind of futuristic, is quantum computing. Quantum computing is basically a very fast computer that's able to do things quicker than your normal typical computer. And so with quantum computing, there's the possibility that if a computer is very fast, they can be able to break the code by figuring out the cryptography that's actually securing the blockchain. So a computer can um, generate several different keys. It's like someone trying to break into your passwords, right? If given enough time, a stranger can use so many different password variations and get in. A typical human being, it might take them a few years if you're using a strong password. For a computer, a quantum computing, it might take maybe a day for them to break the code. And once they break the code, unfortunately, that data can be manipulated, it could be deleted, and several different things can happen. So one of the weaknesses is quantum computing. I said it's futuristic because as of now, the only company that's working on creating a quantum computing is IBM. It's not to say that it's not going to become a big thing for the public later on. But as of right now, I don't really believe quantum computing is at a level where it can break the blockchain cryptography code. But it is a weakness to highlight. So some of you might have heard that there's two different type of blockchain. There is a private blockchain, which is centralized. And what that means is, and so the private blockchain or centralized blockchain is actually a company that decides to run their own blockchain. The number one benefit of blockchain is the ability to share it with anyone at any time, at anywhere. So private companies, when they're looking at using blockchain, they're looking at it and considering to make it centralized to the company, so that centralized means that they will restrict who has access to the data. So a financial institution might restrict access to information within their blockchain to possibly maybe just the executive team, or it could be management team, or it could be the sales team, etc. On the right here is a decentralized blockchain. And a decentralized blockchain just means that no one owns it. It's available to anyone at any time. You can store any information. No one regulates what goes in and comes out. You're in control of, letting other people see your data or sharing your data, but it's not centralized. No one can manipulate it except for the 51% attack. And it's just open. It's free and open. I can share information right now if I want to with someone in Japan or someone in Nigeria. And there's no one that will be able to regulate that information or tell me or shut it down. But for a centralized, a company has the right to shut down that blockchain if they choose to, or restrict who has access to that information. So going over the benefits of blockchain, the blockchain that we know right now is decentralized. So because it's decentralized, we're able to do a lot of transactions with it. We can create all kinds of use cases for blockchain that will benefit everyone, or we can restrict it and make it centralized and only benefit certain people, or only give certain people access to that information. Another thing is the great transparency. In a decentralized blockchain, if I wanted to, I can go into a particular platform and see the money movement from a Bitcoin transaction. Because of blockchain, I can see that movement. I can see that it's going from point A to point B to point C, D, and E. And so there's the autonomy of being just a number. You're just a number because it has your public key. But what I'm doing with my blockchain is available to anyone who has access to viewing that information. It increases efficiency because a lot of the things that we tend to do on a normal basis, it can take a while. One of the efficiency of blockchain is the ability to use it as a cryptocurrency. If I wanted to do a transaction with Kiara today and I want to wire her or send her some money, for a bank, I have to wait for the bank to open. I can put in the transaction today, but then I have to wait for the bank to open, and it's not going to be able to send that information until maybe a certain time during the day, and she's probably not going to get it until maybe the following day or so. With the blockchain, I can actually do a transaction right now, and Kiara can get it within a few minutes. That's the beauty of blockchain. It's instantaneous. It allows people to do several different transactions. There's no centralized individual that's controlling the blockchain. It's better security because of the cryptography. As I mentioned, the weaknesses, there are weaknesses out there, but the security of the technology is awesome. It can't be beat. And improved traceability. As I mentioned, you are able to look at your transactions and see the history of that transaction. A lot of people scan the blockchain transactions on a daily basis just to see how much money is going from here to point B to point A. And that's the beauty about blockchain. If it's decentralized, you have access to looking at that information within the ledger or within the block of networks.
Black Women Blockchain Council is looking for interns. We are accepting applications from high school students to graduates. Our interns will assist with social media, PowerPoint presentations, involvement in blockchain and crypto initiatives, join our board meetings, and more. This is an opportunity to build your knowledge about blockchain and gain an insight into board structure. Submit your interest to info@bwbc.io.
Okay, so we're going to do another poll. So what gender is most involved in Bitcoin?
We're rounding out at 80 respondents.
And we have 2 seconds left. So I'm going to pass it on to Gloria, who will present our next portion of the slide.
Awesome. Thank you for that awesome introduction. I've been answering some of the questions inside the chat. Feel free to continue to ask questions inside the chat, just so people have some understanding of my background. I come from a fintech background, which is financial technology. I've worked with underrepresented minorities in banking and how do we bring economic empowerment via Square. And for the last 4 years, I've been working as a software engineer on the Ethereum blockchain developing projects around that in a lot of different spaces, going from everywhere from, here in New York to the United Nations in Geneva, talking about the importance of blockchain and having more diversity in it. So I'm excited to come to y'all. I will answer questions as much as I can, but just so that we're all on a basic understanding of this technology. I am a tech head, so I'll probably cover this technology a lot, but I want to make sure I have an understanding to it. So I'm going to take one bit away from the slides. I'm going to kind of digress from the slides real quick because I want to have a baseline foundation, and we all have different backgrounds. So I want to make sure that we get the right baseline foundation. So I have one of these. I only still have this because I never use them, but I don't know if everyone can see what this is. A checkbook. Yes. My son, who's 12, has no clue what a checkbook is. But if you remember, in the back of a checkbook, it used to have one of these. Do you know what this is? It's just a ledger. You used to put your number of your check up here and how much you spent. You could keep a running total of the transactions that you had via check in your little ledger. And blockchain technology is that same exact concept, just 2020 version of it. So when we're talking about a distributed ledger, we're talking about having this little ledger that you had on the back of your checkbook, and everybody has everybody's ledger on it. Now, in normal society, you would know that this ledger is connected to me based on my address on the check or the number. In blockchain, you also have an address, but you can't pretend to be me based on the PIN code or the private key that I'm holding. And so that's where someone's talking about having a private or public key, a public address. That's exactly like how we have it on our checkbooks now. We have routing numbers. It's just a public verification of this is who this account goes to. And a private key is something that only is secreted, is a secret shared to that one individual that says, yes, this is my account. And if I share that secret with you, then you know that that's my account. And that is a private key or a PIN or things like that. So these concepts, although they seem very scary and frightening and new right now to some people, these are concepts that you used in different ways, and there's just new applications to the concepts itself. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and move forward with some of the history and the technology of blockchain and Bitcoin itself. So awesome. Okay, so go ahead with that slide. I don't know if the fact's not coming up, but 90% of the people who engage in Bitcoin are men, which means that there's very few of us there, and less than 1% of African women are involved with Bitcoin currently, which these numbers are not great. And what worries me as someone who has a background with economic empowerment is that this new technology, it has these aspects. Well, here, actually, when you look at the history of technology and finances, Black women have tendency to be excluded from the benefits of the wealth side of it, the benefits of the decision making and things of that nature. And so now with these new ways and these new technologies, if we're not involved with the creation of these new ways or the participation of these new ways, then we have the tendency to have history repeats itself. And so for me personally, I always want to make sure that we get enough, or that everyone who wants to be engaged is engaged, so that they can participate and create new innovative solutions for their communities, and be included in the process, rather than looking at this retroactively and thinking, wow, I wish there was a less punitive system for us as women, as Black people in general. So I don't care which cryptocurrency you get, as long as you feel like you're empowered after this to make good decisions, and you get involved in some way, then that's exciting for me, because I love seeing us excel in all places. All right, so next fact. 75 of adults in the US have heard of Bitcoin. So that is great. Yeah, someone said something about jobs, and we'll talk about jobs in a second too. Okay, so let's talk about the evolution of Bitcoin. So this whole aspect of a distributed ledger, which is the blockchain technology, it's what it's built on, that has been there for a while. It's not anything new. Usually, if you were a distributed engineer or a cloud engineer, you would understand these distributed technologies. What's more new is the aspect of having the programmable money built on top, and that's where Bitcoin came about. Bitcoin was created by someone who has this white paper. You can read the Bitcoin white paper. Their name is Satoshi Nakamoto. With Satoshi Nakamoto, no one knows who they really are. So a lot of times you'll see someone with a shirt that says Satoshi is black, Satoshi is a woman, Satoshi is whoever. No one really knows who that person is. And the part that I like is that a little bit of Satoshi could be in all of us. It's just this whole concept of uh, giving money peer to peer. We could have this whole network that would be a little bit more inclusive for us. Um, and the other thing is when people do claim to be Satoshi Nakamoto, we always say, like, if you're really Satoshi Nakamoto, since we have this address where all these Bitcoins started from, just give us the pin, and show us the actual address or prove you have the pin and open it all up. And most people, can't prove they have the pin. So therefore, we still don't know who Satoshi Nakamoto is. All right. And the distributed ledger is blockchain technology. So when we have this distributed ledger, it's most of the time discussed in the context of cryptocurrencies, but it's so much more than just cryptocurrencies. It can be done with voting systems. It can be done with financial institutions in general. It can be done with gaming. There's a whole bunch of different ways that decentralized technology can come about and be helpful and kind of speed things along. So we focus this talk a little bit more with cryptocurrencies, but just know like cryptocurrencies is just one small facet of what blockchain technology can do. And in the future, they think that just like every company has to have like a social media strategy and a go-to-market strategy, that people are going to say that you're going to need to have a blockchain strategy. So it's definitely something that's great to know a little bit more about. Okay, next slide. Awesome. Okay, so once you have this whole type of coin or disruption, we say like, what is the protocol that we're gonna say all of these transactions work? And one of the ways that I can think of a protocol is like, let's say like all of you and your friends you're all gonna have like this club. Did anyone ever see like a Christmas story? And in a Christmas story, Ralphie, he gets the little decoder ring and he has to decode the message, and it says like, don't forget to drink your Ovaltine, and it's like in the newspaper. So if you were going to be this club and you were going to say like, okay, we're going to all try to win the prize, you got to figure out which newspaper you're going to read that has the decoder ring, how you're going to get the prize, who's going to claim it, things like that. Those are like called consensus protocols, when everybody agrees on a thing. And the way that Bitcoin works are proof of work consensus protocols. Those proof of works are very difficult math problems that they have miners go do. So someone's mining, and then the computers, someone's working on the computer to solve this really difficult math problem. And the first person who signs it gets the prize that's within the miner's pool, right? And so then once that prize is done, then it goes on to the next block. So all the transactions that happen on that first block, we say, yes, this is the state of this block. All of these transactions are correct. And now we're going to move to the next block. And so each block keeps building, then they send out another, consensus question. The miners mine on the pool, they get the answer, and it goes on to the next one. Each time the miners get the prize, it validates the transactions that happened on that block. Sarita, you had a
Yes, ma'am. Did you see? I was waving. Can you say that in regular? Can
yes.
for For the non-technical people,
Okay, so I'm trying to think of how can I explain. Okay, so every time, I mean, a transaction is being made, like a credit card transaction or a blockchain transaction is being made, those transactions are put on the ledger, just like my checkbook has my ledger on it. The block has everybody's transactions in it, so it can be going and going and going. Now, with these transactions, after a certain amount or after a certain part of time, you're saying, okay, we're going to say these transactions are valid, and we're going to go to the next block. And so, in order to say that yes, these transactions are the right transactions, uh, they go ahead and create like a very difficult math problem to be done with the computers. And people who are called miners, all they do is try to solve these puzzles. They solve the puzzle and say, like, I have the right answer, and this, when I got the right answer, this was the state of the transactions, and it would have all the list of the transactions, right? And so they say, okay, this is transaction block 1. Now we're going to go to block 2. So that starts a new list of transactions on the blockchain. And
are
that's
the miners the people that get the money? Just
say that again.
are the miners the people that get crypto if they solve a problem?
Yes, if they solve a problem, they get a little portion of the crypto. So every time you have a transaction, there's a little portion of the transaction that goes into these mining pools, and then the miners get the transaction. I love it. It says, who creates the puzzles, or how do you become a miner? That is a whole community. Like, if you want to become a miner, go for it. Depending on different blockchains, they have different protocols that you can do. So whether it's Bitcoin or whatnot, they have different validating nodes is what they're called, and then they will get the puzzles, and then that you would have to respond to it. So you could do a validator node with proof of work with that protocol for a blockchain, but other blockchains also have different protocols that they use. So they don't all use proof of work. Some use proof of stake. Some use proof of attendance. There's a lot of different proof of it. Yeah, mining can be very harmful with it takes a lot of compute power um, to perform mining. But there's been, I mean, with layer 2 solutions, there's going to be some hope into figuring out if there's more of a sustainable way to do it. But yeah, it does take a lot of computing power and a lot of CO2 emissions. And now there's also big mining pools. So just know that there is a big strain in electricity price. It says, if miners receive the reward, why are people investing in Bitcoin? Some people don't just do the actual Bitcoin aspect, but some do the actual mining. The Bitcoin itself has increased in value because, let me go on with the slide, and I'll see what does layer 2 mean. Oh, so many questions. I love this. Can we go to the next slide? Let me see if I answer some of these ones. Okay, so here's the price fluctuation. Sometimes this is like, why do people like invest in mining? So with some cryptocurrencies, when you have the aspect of supply, and the supply that's out there generating like the actual price of the digital asset that goes up. So when some people first heard of Bitcoin, it was at, let's see. So when my mentor heard of it first time, it was like $7 that he had the opportunity to get in it, and it was just something that people were discussing. Over time, because there is like a limited amount of coins that will be minted, that drives up the actual value of the supply. So just like um, in the art world, like let's just say there's 4 Picassos, and if you own one of those 4 Picassos, the price of the Picassos start to go up. It's the same thing with Bitcoin or any other coins. You have the supply and then the demand, and then the demand driving up the price of the supply per se. So over time, Bitcoin has not always stayed at 7, and neither has Ethereum, which is like another cryptocurrencies. A lot of the times when you're evaluating cryptocurrency, you have to look at like the share of the markets, how much is the supply, things of that nature. At some point, we'll get to, I think it's like 2040 when the last um, coin is minted. So they have these halving schedules within Bitcoin, and then they'll have total supply will be out there in the market. And at that point, you will be like, it'd be like owning a coin will be more of like 1 in a million of the people who own it, or one in whatever the total supply is. And then the demand for that one is going to be driven by the market demand of the cryptocurrency. So as you can see, sometimes they have this discussion of like it used to be the $27,000 pizza, or what we would call now about like the $40,000 pizza. And it's about this whole exchange where someone bought a pizza and exchanged it for a 1 Bitcoin at the time, because it was 17 or whatever dollars it was. But now that 1 Bitcoin would be worth what it's at. Perfect. And next slide. Perfect. Okay, great. Bitcoin's worth. This is another aspect of it. Where does it come? It comes with being a digital commodity, the price and fluctuation or investments. So a lot of times when I think of like digital commodities, it's almost I think of it still like it's a marketplace, just like a stock market or stock exchange per se. Too, it's all done by the digital currency. The difference in the exchanges are two, though. Like a stock market runs Monday through Friday. Digital exchanges run 24/7, 7 days a week, and you're able to invest all over the globe versus having one specific exchange that you can invest in right now. Yes. So, I'm gonna get to these questions. I promise you. I love it. It says, "Do you think Bitcoin will replace it for what would it need?" So it's Baleem has a good question saying, "Do you think a replacement for Bitcoin will arrive, and what would it need?" Okay, so I think what we're going to get to a point where cryptocurrencies or different blockchain technologies are you're going to have multiple. The difference between Bitcoin and having like the one cryptocurrency and then moving on to a different one is that Bitcoin was made to be digital money, but programming on top of it was extremely difficult. And so you couldn't, if you had a use case that was outside of financial uses, that you still wanted to use like a distributed ledger and like have some of these crypto economic benefits, you couldn't do it with a Bitcoin. But then when you got to Ethereum, Ethereum had like Solidity based as a programmable language, and so you could do a lot more projects with it. And so there will be like this whole thing where with programmable incentives versus just currency type things. And so you'll see a lot within like Ethereum space and things of that nature. EOS is anything that's programmable, like changing as things start to have different opportunities arises for you to implement blockchain technology. With that being said, the use cases are like, and listen, you have to really think of adoption. In the US, we don't have as high as an adoption rate, but if you see places that have less stability within their fiat currency, which is within their dollars, or there's a lot less transparency, then they have higher adoption rate. So there's two things that needs to happen in order for adoption rates to be more within society, and that's adoption and transactions, transaction fees, opportunities, the amount of transactions. We still have a lot of transactions happening with Visa. I think Visa does like 1,000 transactions per second, and blockchain does 14. Sarita, go ahead. You can interrupt me anytime.
Everyone, so do you guys see why I say that I am the non-technical? Because I lived in the Ukraine at some point in life, and they said, "Well, you're American, so we know that you know Russian." So I said, "No, I know no Russian." And something happened, and I started laughing at a joke. So they said, "Well, no, you do know Russian." Okay, yeah, food, shelter, clothing. So Gloria is our technical arm, And this is why we're having this session, because so many times people will say, you just do 3 steps and now you know blockchain. No, you will not. However, that's why we're together as a community. Okay, so thank you, sis. Keep going.
Anytime. I am more than happy to answer any questions. All right, next slide. So we know that Bitcoin can be used in social justice. There's a great piece by Rebecca talking about how Bitcoin was used in Nigeria in the fight to end SARS. And it's an extremely powerful discussion there. I recommend that you take a read of it. But one of the aspects of blockchain being immutable and being transparent is that it can be moved very easily, where people who tend to have corrupt financial systems to fund things, they can use Bitcoin to fight those systems. All right, next question, next slide. All right, perfect. So again, this is again the transactions aspects of it within the difference with what we call adoption is like where the transactions are occurring. There's 14% happening in in the U.S. 18% are happening in Africa. Africa has a higher adoption rate. Also, South America tends to have a higher adoption rate. Specifically, I think it's Brazil that's having a really great adoption to Bitcoin as well. So sometimes you'll see that the transactions might be smaller, but there's more people using it, and it's because it's used for their everyday needs. Okay, great. Next one. Okay, so then there's this whole aspect of what is a wallet, and a wallet is a software that holds your crypto account. Your account information is stored in that wallet. So just like you have a bank account that is with, B of A or Chase or whatever, your crypto wallet holds your bank account. Now, because it's decentralized, you don't have to have it in a bank. You can have it in a actual. You can have it in an actual. A hardware wallet, which is like a device that you can have it in, or you can have it in a custodial crypto wallet that actually stores information, like a Coinbase wallet or an Ethereum wallet or anything else like that. So, yes, Dogecoin is another cryptocurrency. All right, next slide, please. I'll try to get through this really fast so I can get to your questions. If not, we'll just answer questions. Okay, so I think we've talked about the differences between public keys and private keys.
One that I've seen so far has happened.
Say that again. Oh, can you give me a thumbs up if you need me to go, if you're okay with the public keys and private keys, if you need me to go over that. But basically, your private key is your actual account that can be shared with people. The private keys you want to keep to yourself. It's going to be your seed phrases. It helps everything be secret to you. So that's something you do not want to share with other people. Yeah, you want to keep your private key to yourself. All right, next slide. Okay, crypto exchanges. I touched on this lightly, but crypto exchanges are a digital currency exchange where people are allowed to trade either cryptocurrencies or fiat currencies for the digital assets that they want. So it's the places where you get to buy and exchange crypto. They work different than our traditional exchanges, again, because our traditional exchanges are our stock exchanges, things of that, commodity exchanges, anything like that is Monday through Friday, as closing times, things of that nature. Digital exchanges happen 24/7, so you'll see sometimes there'll be a wave on Monday or whatnot. That's happened all the time. The other side of the digital exchanges is that with a traditional exchange, you can play with the U.S. or stocks that were exchanged globally. But now, digital exchanges, you're not confined to just one territory. You are open to buy anything that's exchanged in a ICO or any type of public exchange that happens, or directly from the cryptocurrency itself. All right, next slide. So some of these these are just some of the names of exchanges that you might have heard, like Coinbase, Kraken, Binance, SushiSwap. Now, actually, the slide is a little bit old, but you can buy into crypto from some Cash Apps. They're not exchanges really. They're Cash App only has one crypto, so it's almost more like a wallet. But I have to check with Robinhood too, because I think you can buy some crypto on Robinhood, but I haven't checked it in a long time.
Yeah,
It's
Robinhood does allow you to buy more than just Bitcoin. You can buy Ethereum, um, Dogecoin as well, Litcoin, several different. They have a variety. But just to stress that these are not exchanges. The difference between Cash App, Robinhood, what is it, PayPal, etc., and crypto exchanges is that the exchanges allow you to own the cryptocurrencies
correct.
because you can get your private key and your public key, and you could transfer that currency off of the exchange.
Right.
Robinhood, Cash App, etc., they're essentially just a storage for
So
you. So you don't own it. You can use it to buy stuff or trade it, but you don't own it.
yes, correct. Perfect. Thank you so much too for jumping in, Olia. All right, next slide. Let's see if I can- Next slide, and I'll jump in and get some of these questions.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Gloria. All right. So it's important for us to also talk about the regulation of cryptocurrency. And I'm sure a lot of you have heard of some of these rules that are being proposed for cryptocurrency. I also want to highlight that the beauty of cryptocurrency is that within the last 4 years, it's gained notoriety as well as interest from even lawmakers. And in the previous administrations, there were individuals who were actually favorable to both Bitcoin and Ethereum. Even though you might have heard that Congress, always thinks that these cryptocurrencies are being used by bad actors, nation states, etc., more than usual. But however, to date, the most used vehicle for bad actors is the dollar, the US dollar, and real estate. So, one of the things that I wanted to stress is that both administrations are very interested in cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, as well as blockchain. So the previous administration, their concern was mostly on making sure that they know who has access to these cryptocurrencies so that they can monitor as part of the FinCEN financial institution, the rule there, the Bank Secrecy Act, to make sure that they are able to trace where the money is going. As I mentioned with blockchain and Bitcoin as well as Ethereum, you can look at the history or the transaction so you can plot the movement. But however, you cannot pinpoint it to one individual person because it does not store that information. What it stores is their public key. So you can trace that public key, the movement from one public key to the other public key. And so what the regulators were proposing is being able to trace who moved money, a certain amount of money, I believe it was 3,000, from an exchange into their wallet. Your wallet is only, it's basically, it should be secure, but your wallet is only accessible to you. You will have access to that wallet unless you lose it. You don't want to lose it. So you have access to that wallet. The exchange will not have access to that wallet. The regulators want to be able to trace a certain amount of money that are coming from the exchange into a wallet and able to trace that wallet and trace the movements from that wallet to purchase something nefarious or something like that. That was their intent. The beauty about this space is that it gives you the anonymity of being able to do certain transactions, giving that, as anything that comes up that's money related, there will be some bad actors who will utilize it for their own means. So they wanted to make sure that they're able to trace that information. Currently, the law is it's all the rules have been frozen until Biden and his new administration figures out whether or not certain rules can move forward, or certain rules may need to be revised, or certain rules may need to um, be stopped from going further. So that's where we are with some of the regulation. I also mentioned that for Bitcoin and Ethereum, the regulators have deemed them to not be security, to not be a security. And the great thing about this is that it was an effort from the community to make sure that regulators see the difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum, as well as other cryptocurrencies. One of the reasons why the regulators decided not to deem Bitcoin as a security is because there's actually no central individual that owns it. So if you sanction Bitcoin, who are you going to go after? No one. It's a decentralized cryptocurrency. And so, because there was no one to go after, they were also looking at whether or not it could be deemed a security, because there's a rule in place that requires anything that's being traded with the general public to be registered as a security. And so, what is it, I think Clayton, um, back in 2019 deemed that Bitcoin was not a security, um, as well as Ethereum. So now we have XRP. Just December of last year, there was a sanction against XRP, which is Ripple. Ripple is an altcoin. It's an alternative coin. We call it an altcoin because Bitcoin and crypto and Ethereum are the main coins, or digital coins. And so Ripple is another cryptocurrency that's being traded, but the regulators deem it to be unregistered security. They deem it to be a security, but it's unregistered. And whenever you're trading a security with the general public, you need to have it registered. And so the SEC has sanctioned Ripple as selling unregistered security, because it doesn't have the same uh, parameters or exemption as Bitcoin and Ethereum. So the DOJ, the previous administration, put out a few enforcement framework that basically highlights the fact that they want to start looking closely at who's trading these cryptocurrencies. Is it being done to circumvent certain regulations, or is it being done by bad actors or nation states, such as China or Russia, to cause chaos or buy military grade weapons, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a framework that's currently on hold right now. But you will hear about more regulations, because there is other cryptocurrencies out there. And if the SEC deem it to be an unregistered security, you will start hearing more regulations about it. The good thing is both administrations have been very favorable to cryptocurrencies and the blockchain, and they see the use value of both. And it's important for our community to understand that as well. So now let's talk about the future. It's very important to discuss the future, because the future is now. What is it? When the internet first started, a lot of people didn't pay attention to it. Some individuals figured that the internet was just a craze, it was going to leave. But I actually started taking notice of the internet when even mattress.com had their own website. Everybody had a website at that point. And so the internet, as we know it now, is an everyday usage, is how we're communicating with you right now. And we feel that blockchain and some cryptocurrencies will be part of the future. It would just be our everyday way of doing business or living, period. So for the financial institutions, they're looking at blockchain and cryptocurrencies for several reasons. One of them is trading. There's a lot more financial institutions that are getting into cryptocurrency and want to ride the wave that's coming along with it. You'll hear JP Morgan Chase, you'll hear Bank of America, etc. All these financial institutions, banks mostly, are very much interested. There's other reasons that they're interested. They also want to utilize the blockchain technology. As you all heard, there's ways to store data in it. It's a distributed ledger. There's ways to track information, and it's secure. So they want to use it for the centralized private blockchain. Another use case is proxy voting. I used to work for a global proxy voting company, and proxy voting, just to let you guys know, is whenever you own stocks or shares within a company, it gives you the right to vote on certain measures brought on by the company. And so if they're voting on, getting a certain accountant, or voting on letting the CEO own a certain, get a certain package or severance package, etc., shareholders like you are able to vote on that information. When you vote on that information, it's recorded, and then supposedly it's being counted. What blockchain is trying to do, or what some companies are thinking, is using it in the proxy voting process to allow you to be able to trace from the time that you check mark or voted to the end, to see whether or not your votes actually count. And so that's one use case. Media, as Gloria mentioned, art is very important. If there's 4 Picassos in the world and you own one of them, it's very valuable. But what if that Picasso that you earn is not authentic, right? So within media, you can authenticate an art because you're able to record all the information. Who was the author, or I'm sorry, who was the artist, and what year he created it, what did he use, what kind of, is it watercolor, etc. All the detailed information, you'll be able to store it within the blockchain, and you'll be able to view that information from beginning to the end. Medical. I'll talk a little bit more about medical and right now, because there's something very exciting that's happening even with COVID, with the research within COVID. But for medical, you can record your your personal medical records. The biggest issue with medical records is if I travel outside of the country, I will have to reach out to my primary care doctor and request them to send over my records. My records does not travel with me. God forbid if something happens, I need that record to be able to show my doctor in the other country the information about me. The beauty about blockchain is that if um, we get some of these projects that are being launched right now that relates to your personal records, your personal medical records, you'll be able to own that information and take it anywhere and share it with anybody. Insurance claims, computer science, direct to developer payments. There's no middleman. That's the beauty about blockchain. It's decentralized. So if I'm doing a transaction, no one is standing in between it. There's no banks. It's just you and I. Mortgages. Ethereum is great because it's a smart contract. And what that means is that it's smart because it's programmable, and it's a contract. It's a contract between myself and another individual. If I wanted to sell my house, I could use a smart contract like Ethereum to conduct that transaction, eliminate all the middlemen, and go from A to B. It's one of the biggest thing about real estate is being able to record the transaction. If you guys have ever purchased a house in the US, you'll realize that you signed so many different documents, right? And that document needs to be recorded. in order for you, and then you need to have the title. So there's several different transactions and several different exchanges. With a smart contract, you can literally write in that transaction and eliminate so many of the middlemen, and it could be a transaction between A and B. There's other future use cases of blockchain. There's the supply chain, which I personally love, because how many times have we heard about, lettuce or whatever, vegetables, etc., meat products, whatever, food, period, being recalled, right? So with blockchain, you're able to record where that information came from, where the manufacturing distribution is, what farm, and then you could also record what grocery store it went to and whose household, that information. So you're able to trace within the supply chain, the different transactions along the way. And the beauty about this is, instead of putting out a worldwide or through the news network a recall, you can literally trace it and see which household purchased that certain lettuce. And then consumer, we mentioned PayPal, we've mentioned what is it, Cash App, etc. A lot more consumer retail or fintech platforms are very much interested in using blockchain and getting involved in cryptocurrency. So adoption. Right now, today, financial institution, as I mentioned, they're trading Bitcoin, Ethereum. We have several crypto exchanges that we talked about, and the DeFi aspect of blockchain, meaning that basically creates a community. It creates a movement. It creates the ability for you to interact and transact with anyone at any time, with using any type of data. Payments. Already talked about that. Another thing that we didn't talk about is Visa. Visa is very interested in this. Visa, like, they're one of the biggest credit card companies out there, and I'm sure MasterCard, because they don't want to be outdone by Visa, are not that far behind. Consumers. One of the things that I love about having this event and the fact that Sage reached out to us is the curiosity between Sage members. And Kiara, she wanted to be a guinea pig for being able to go through the process of getting a Bitcoin, etc. So I walk her through, and then one of her questions was, "Now that I have it, what do I do? How can I use it?" And so there's several different ways for you to use it. You can use it to purchase products. One of the number one retail company that's actually allowing you to use Bitcoin right now is Overstock. So if you happen to shop at Overstock and Wayfair, you could definitely use a Bitcoin to purchase your materials, whatever you wanted to buy. In other countries, the US is kind of far behind when it comes to cryptocurrencies and blockchain, for several reasons, one of them being regulation and people not fully understanding and the lack of mass adoption. But in other countries like Singapore, you could actually use it at a Burger King. I mentioned the smart contract aspect. And then one of the things that I think is awesome about using blockchain is the fact that we can use it in the pandemic right now. There's actually two British hospitals that are using distributed ledger Hedera, which is a distributed type of blockchain. They're using this to be able to track the temperature of the vaccine. Because as you know, some vaccines become ineffective if they fall below a certain temperature or go above a certain temperature. So in order to monitor the temperature from different stages, they're actually utilizing blockchain to be able to do that. And I think that's actually awesome. That's a great use case that right now people are doing. And there's going to be a lot more use cases for blockchain as well as cryptocurrency. So looking forward, we will continue to showcase and support Black women across the globe and raise awareness of blockchain as well as STEM. It's our passion. I created BWBC because I wanted to make sure that we as people do not get left behind. Before this meeting started, some of the ladies got to see my daughter. She's 11 years old, and I'm always thinking about how her future will look like, right? And, being in tech right now as a cybersecurity expert, I look around and don't see a lot of Black females. And then I hear other Black females who are frustrated about how technology or the industry is right now, because a lot of them are feeling like they're excluded and they rarely see each other in certain circuits. So for me, it's important to make sure that my daughter has a future where she looks around to her left and to her right and sees people that look like her. So that's why I created BWBC to make sure that the community does not get left behind. We are writing an ebook to spread the word about blockchain and its many use cases. We're going to continue to provide more educational training materials. This one was just a high level overview. We can go into great detail about any one of these individual slides, and we will. So I hope you guys subscribe to our newsletter, like Carlene mentioned in the chat. And we will have more conferences and speaking engagements. So how you can get involved, I saw a lot of comments about this and people who are interested in creating a group to discuss this further and get more involved. Well, you could become a BWBC member. We are a global benefit LLC. We're open to everyone who's interested. We do have a newsletter that you can sign up for. It's called The Stand. It's a monthly newsletter where we not only try to showcase Black women in technology, but also give you some information about how, what's going on in the industry. And then we're on Twitter at BW Blockchain. We're very active on our Twitter account, and we're also active on our LinkedIn account as well. We do have a YouTube, and we're recording this meeting, so we will upload this to our YouTube sometime later this month. Yeah, we're constantly looking for means to get more involved in the community. So if any one of you are interested in us doing some kind of presentation or providing some leadership knowledge, please feel free to reach out to us. Another way to support us is we have merchandise, as the one over here. It says Black girl magic mixed with blockchain equals priceless. I think it's priceless when we as Black women get into blockchain, when we as Black communities, period, get into blockchain, because we are now creating a way to bridge the wealth gap, which is very important. The Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other cryptocurrencies, it's open to anyone who has access to purchase it. You don't have to purchase one Bitcoin, which is nearing $40,000 again. You could purchase fractions of Bitcoin and just to get involved. I mentioned our newsletter. It's a monthly newsletter. It showcases global information, blockchain projects, Black women in blockchain or Black men, just the Black community, period. And as well as key people that you should know that are in STEM. I also want to plug this great book that was written by Isaiah Jackson. It's called Bitcoin and Black America. I'm sure some of you have already heard of it. If you haven't, I suggest that you go to Amazon and buy this book, because it gives you a great introduction into what it is and what it can do for our community. We strongly agree with Isaiah in that this is a possibility for us to definitely bridge that wealth gap. And it's important for us to be able to be involved in it. And that is the reason why we're here raising awareness. And that concludes our presentation. So we are now accepting questions And just to let you know before you leave, we do have an evaluation at the end after we get our questions or answer some of the questions in the chat. But we do have a few questions for you at the end.
I just wanted to jump into because someone had talked about getting started with crypto, and I just want to be really thorough. And when I say like when you get started, you don't have to have millions of dollars or thousands or anything like that. One thing that I've done with my children is we collect pennies when we come across them, and we put them in the jar. And the reason that we do that is some of these coins are worth, 100 coins may be worth a penny. Like they're just that, uh, that scarce at this point, and then they grow up in value. So if you're someone who's going to hold on to them for a while, there's benefits. So my kids have done that, and with the pennies they collected last year, we bought crypto with it this year, and they've already since January made like 3 or 4 fold from what they've invested with their pennies. You can go to Coinstar and buy cryptocurrency directly from a Coinstar right now, or buy Bitcoin directly from Coinstar right now. The other side of it is like for me, I did not invest my own money to get started. I won a lot of money doing hackathon prizes. Me being technical, participated in the hackathon prizes, earned crypto, then let my crypto grow and continue to grow on that way. So you don't have to have a whole lot to get started. You don't have to, be the smartest person or wait, to figure it out. Just start with what you can if this is something that you're going to choose to do, and like just have it be like money that you throw away anyway. Whether for me it's my cup of coffee. Now I can make my coffee at home, and I take my coffee and invest in crypto. My husband just asked what I wanted for Valentine's Day this year, and it was crypto. So, like, little choices that you can make on, what you want and what you feel comfortable playing around with. And I always say, like, start small, understand the way money moves, and then continue to go from there. Even if you understood how money moves without the blockchain element of it, I'd be so proud of y'all because money moves in mysterious ways sometimes. And I think just understanding more and more about the impacts of it and the generational wealth. The one statistic I know for sure is like Black women hold the least amount of wealth. Like they're the most affected by the gender pay disparity is Black women, and like only 1% of Black women make over 6 figures a year. 1%, so it's like me, Oprah, Beyonce are all in the same category. Like that just should not happen to our people. And so I want more of our people having more wealth, having more generational wealth, and whether it's cryptocurrencies or just having wealth in general. I think it's beneficial for our society as a whole. So with that, I will answer any questions that anybody has. Or move forward.
So, Gloria, so there are a lot of questions in the chat.
Okay.
So what I said is we won't be able to get to all of them, but we're going to collect them, and we're going to talk with our colleagues and then send some responses back to you. So yeah.
I'm also a very, very public person. So if ever you have a question, you can always tweet me a question on Twitter. You can find me on Instagram. Like you can find me in any public place and ask me a question. I am always about making sure that my community has their questions answers and can participate in as much knowledge as they can. And as much as I am a technical person, my mother is the complete opposite technical. So like there's no way that I will be any more frustrated or any less frustrated. I have to answer these questions for my mom all the time. I'm more than happy to answer it for anyone else who needs some help.
Right. I'm gonna. Tanji has her hand up, so I'm gonna go ahead. Tanji, can you unmute yourself and ask your question? Unless
Hi.
it's a high five to us.
Can you hear me?
We can. Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to say to follow up on, I think that was Gloria's thought. When I came into this space in the end of 2017, I think the price of Bitcoin was like $9,000. And I was completely like wasn't sure what I was doing. And I didn't want to spend much money. So I spent $25 to get like 0.0000000 like maybe 4 or 5% of a $9,000 Bitcoin. So when she says that you literally can do your pennies, I want you to understand. You see that Bitcoin right now is in like the 37, 38,000 price point. I highly encourage you to go on an exchange and purchase whatever whatever money you are willing to use. This is a risk that you are taking. But I think it's worth taking personally because when I first came into this, all the institutions were not coming into this space, and they are coming in droves. The big names, Visa announced today that they're getting ready to start the same way you use your Visa card to do credit, you're going to be able to do uh, various cryptocurrencies. But I would get the granddaddy, the first one, the name that everyone knows, the brand name Bitcoin. I would also say when you're doing your research, I did a lot of my research on YouTube. What I see now when I watch these different bloggers is at the beginning, there's always a commercial at the beginning. And a lot of those commercials are scams. They're commercials where they're encouraging you to purchase their service and they'll have video of the actual creator of Ethereum or XRP or all these various different known cryptocurrencies. Do not purchase. A lot of people got scammed. Do not purchase those. Those are scams. Just watch the videos. So I just wanted to let you know so you don't get scammed and then you like, I'm not gonna do this anymore.
Thank
So
you.
I just wanted to, let you guys know that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mhm. You're welcome.
Is there anyone else that wants to raise their hand and ask a question? And thank you for increasing your evaluation numbers, survey numbers. Anyone else? Okay, I don't see anyone. Gloria, is there from the chat, is there a particular question that you?
There's a couple. Sharice has her hand raised, and
Okay.
Anna.
Okay, Cherish, can you take yourself off of mute and ask your question?
Yeah, I just did. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. This is Ebony. It came back as a different name.
Okay.
Anyway, my question was about the wallets. Like, I've heard about the external wallets, and then I've heard about the ones that are online. I guess the question is for any of you guys, which ones are better or safer or whatever?
All right, so I'll take that as a cybersecurity person. Okay, so there's different type of wallets. There's a hot wallet, a warm wallet, and a cold wallet. A hot wallet is one that's connected to the internet. A warm wallet, it's connected to the internet, but you're able to take your data offline. And then a cold wallet is basically paper. Like literally, you're writing your private key on a piece of paper. Your wallet becomes a piece of paper that you can store anywhere. So and also a cold wallet is also one of those ledgers. So it's either a piece of paper or hardware ledger, like a what is it called?
Is it the nano thing?
Yeah,
that
thank you, a
everyone-
nano ledger.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So hot wallet. The reason why they call it hot is because it's connected to the internet. So it's the vulnerability of it being uh, targeted by hackers is very high. So whenever something is connected to the internet, it's not 100% secure. And then you have warm wallet that's 50-50, and then you have cold wallet that's secure because you're taking it offline and you're storing it, in your house, wherever you want to store it. The only issue is, if you forget it, you lose it, etc. There's one guy that actually stored his a wallet on his computer and unfortunately he couldn't gain access to that wallet because he forgot the password. There's another guy who stored his computer on a device and mistakenly got thrown away to a landfill, And to this day, he's still looking for it. So, you know, the only point of failure is you as an individual for a cold wallet.
Okay. Well, what's a warm wallet? Like, which one would be considered a warm one?
So, what is it? MEU, My Ether wallet. Because My Ether
Okay.
wallet allows you to download your private key. Like you could print off your private key as a paper. And then when you go in, when you log into the My Ether wallet, you're able to see what you have in that wallet. But it's not meant to store it online. So it's just a viewing mechanism for you to see inside your wallet.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Anna, is your hand up? Would you like to ask a question?
Yes, hello, ladies. Can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
First of all, thank you for putting forth the effort. This is remarkable, and I'm just so proud to see Black girls on fire for real. So I have a couple of questions. First, I'm from the Bay Area, so I know when Bitcoin came out in 2009 and just kind of wasn't in the mind space, which I was, but oh well. And I have a couple other girlfriends from the Bay that are on here, so we're all just fired up about this. My question is, what proportion of individual or of Bitcoin owners are like individual owners, like those of us on this call, versus institutional owners, investors that are coming in? I hear there's quite a bit of Bitcoin owned by institutions now.
So I think the current breakdown right now is like 90-10. 90% of it, from what the research shows, is within what they call whales or institutions. 10% is within actual, individuals. And what happens is that when it splits, when a whale releases money into the general pool, then it drives the price of the Bitcoin down because there's more people that can then buy, and then you have this whole like dip and like there's dips and then there's peaks as you go out to it. And what ends up happening is that if you see like like the slide I had with Bitcoin, it goes up and to the right again because of all of the different changes that are happening. So there is some things that bring concerns when you do have more institutions owning it than otherwise. But there's also power within the individuals. And so a lot of times when you're looking at things like beyond Bitcoin, and this is going to be so nerdy that it's like hurting my head, but there's things that are called like quadriatic voting, which levels the playing field a little bit more from having a perspective of like who owns more than the type of the person it is. So like um, you can do what's with this technology what's called like a zero knowledge proof, which means it proves like what I say is true without releasing too much information about myself. And with those proofs, you could then do these votes that says like if I am a Black woman, then this vote has like 4 times more votes than these ones who aren't doing this proof against this. So the technology itself is in kind of like has ways of leveling the playing field too. When you're on coins that can do that. So a lot of the times you have to look at the community behind the coin, what is possible, the governance, the consensus, things of that nature, than just worrying about like who's the coin and who owns the coin, because there's so many more questions beyond that that you can ask and discuss and have a consensus about too.
So before we bring this to a close, can we just use our reaction buttons to give our partners at BWBC a really great round of applause for those who can get to any type of reaction or
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Wonderful.
so much.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, so we're gonna and we'll send a follow-up communication and the session will be up on the YouTube and early next month, so you can just watch it over and over and over again as much as you like. Before we bring to a close, I want to see if Precious and Sonia are still on the call. Very briefly.
Yes, and of course I'm still here. I'm Sonia Young Adam with the California Black Women's Health Project, and it was such an amazing opportunity to not only listen and learn, but to see the reaction and the responses of so many Black women, and I know there are a couple of gentlemen in here as well, coming into this space to listen and learn as well. So thank you so much to the council. Thank you so much to the partners. I mean, we are so incredibly honored to be in collaboration and strategic partnership with SAGE, Sisters Aging with Grace and Elegance, and to be in space with so many of you. Some of your names I recognize from past SAGE events, but I know that there are people here from all over, and given the topic now, I fully understand it. So we appreciate you, and we look forward to being in space with you again. We are California Black Women's Health Project. You can always check us out on our website, cabwhp.org. We are also a grant-funded organization or a donation-funded organization. And if you have a heart or a service to give, the funds that you give will be there to support Sisters Aging with Grace and Elegance, and to be able to bring on future engagements just like this. So thank you so much. Everyone have an incredibly restful evening. I'm pretty sure your mind will be running all night. And tomorrow you'll be able to think about moves that you'd like to make, but always be smart, be healthy, be blessed, and take care. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So, sisters, I mean, for some of you on the East Coast, it's almost 11 o'clock. I want to thank everyone for staying on with us until the very end. We will be providing a follow-up communication and highlighting some key points of what was discussed, as well as offering responses to some of the questions that we weren't able to respond to this evening. In our follow-up, we'll also identify those who are interested in having more workshops to drill down deeper so we can get the pulse of how we should continue with this conversation. And we'll send out the contact information for all of our partner organizations. And so, on behalf of Sisters Aging with Grace and Elegance and all of our partners, we want to wish everyone continued health and wellness. Be safe, be kind, take care of yourselves, love yourselves, and also focus on all of the aspects that we need to focus on so we can be a community of sisters aging with grace and elegance. So thank you so much for your time and your fellowship this evening.